If you are looking for the front page of DeFi, look no further than ZERION.io. ZERION is your home base for managing your DeFi portfolios. ZERION offers a central place for you to engage with all of the DeFi protocols and assets that you engage with on a daily basis, but all in one central spot. Here you can see I've loaded up a wallet, and ZERION is giving me the portfolio performance of all the assets in this wallet over time, as well as a breakdown of all the assets that I own, as well as all of my transaction history that I've ever done in an easy to view fashion. ZERION also lets you invest right into DeFi's best yielding financial opportunities right from their homepage. ZERION also makes it super easy to access interest in DeFi using applications like Compound and Aave in the background. And you can also exchange your assets using the ZERION app using an exchange aggregator in the background to make sure that you always get the best rates. You can even use the ZERION mobile wallet to add your MetaMask or Argent or another Ethereum address right into your mobile wallet so you can see your portfolio and engage in DeFi on the go. Here I just loaded up my Argent wallet, and now I'm going to load up my MetaMask as well. And ZERION will do the same thing. It will add all of my assets and wallets together all in one space and give me a portfolio summary of what's going on. Adding wallets is trivially easy. If you already have a MetaMask, you can get it right into the ZERION app, and it can sync with your desktop app as well. And the best part is you can also buy Ether right into the app itself. Use the Invest tab to look at all the things that you have invested in, as well as other opportunities. And coming soon to the ZERION app is the ability to buy and sell your assets straight from your mobile device as well. So download the app. It works on iOS and Android. Go to ZERION.io, plug in your wallets, and get a historical report of your portfolio over time, as well as a comprehensive breakdown of all the assets that you own and how much yield they're generating for you. We're also brought to you by MONOLITH. MONOLITH is your cool new DeFi account, your DeFi savings account, your DeFi checking account. Except the cool thing about the MONOLITH DeFi account is that it gets software updates, right? You actually get to increase the usefulness of this over time. So here are some of the features. MONOLITH is a smart contract wallet with a lot of the features that you would expect if you've come to know DeFi and what it is. You can add money to it. You can put that money to work in Compound and accessing yield. But you can also swap through Uniswap. What was cool with MONOLITH is that they will send you a very sexy MONOLITH Visa card that connects to your MONOLITH smart contract wallet on Ethereum. So it's a really awesome tool to live a bankless life with a savings account that gets software updates. So this is something that you're never going to find out in the real world, but you can still do real world things with real money, like buy your groceries. So that's just fantastic. Coming soon to MONOLITH, actually already here to MONOLITH, is now you can buy DAI and get it sent to your wallet directly, right? So it's also being an on-ramp. So you don't have to go through your centralized exchange like Coinbase or Gemini or wherever. You can just go straight from your bank account right into your MONOLITH checking account smart contract wallet. So check them out at monolith.xyz. Hello everyone. Today on the Bankless newsletter, I released Ethereum, the Tree of Trust, and we are going to read it together. So let's dive in. Life. Life is a bottom-up phenomenon. It emerges out of mechanisms that produce order out of chaos. By harnessing the energy of the world around it, life is the product of organic algorithms that are capable of inputting the energy from the world around it and outputting order. Once an initial foundation of order is established, life progresses and develops by adding on further and further layers of order on top of its initial foundation. This is how life went from single-cellular to multicellular organisms, to complex symphonies of organs, integrated systems, hormones, brains, and consciousness. It all started small, and then it layered further and further structures upon itself over millions and millions of years to evolve into the massively diverse and complex life forms we know today. Importantly, every iteration on the evolution of life was based on the incentives of each individual unit. Richard Dawkins' book, The Selfish Gene, discusses how each gene of an organism is the smallest unit of life, and it is inherently self-interested in its own preservation and replication and its inherent self-interest in its own preservation and replication offers the foundational pattern to which all of life stands on. Good genes survive, bad genes die. Genes that band together with others do better than those that stay independent because group coordination makes survival more efficient. Charlie Munger's quote, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome," applies to life as well. Life inherently has the incentive to survive. It is the prime motivational force that gives life its sticking power and ability to progress. Life is simply the combination of the desire to live with the tools needed to do so. Given enough time, we can eventually expect there will be a flourishing planet full of life of all forms, as the motivational force to live long and prosper will come to fill all voids and niches with some new form of life. Nature abhors a vacuum, and all corners of space-time are places where life can emerge. With sufficiently strong foundations and life-producing tools, even the most void areas of space-time are capable of hosting life. Crypto-economic life. Crypto-economic systems like Bitcoin and Ethereum represent life forms in an entirely new domain of existence. They are internet-native life forms, and their existence in this alternative plane of reality is what makes them so fundamentally unique. Bitcoin and Ethereum aren't the first organisms to inhabit the internet domain. Computer viruses are basically as old as the internet itself. As the march of evolution goes, first comes simple, highly replicatable life, and later comes complex bodies with internal structures that work in harmony to produce something greater than the sum of the parts. Some of my favorite work in this space has been done by Brandon Quittem, warmly known as Bitcoin Mushroom Man, for his fantastic work illustrating the connection between Bitcoin and mycelium, which are underground networks of fungi that flower above ground as mushrooms. Definitely something that you should read. I have it linked here in the article. One of the best features of this industry is how it somehow relates to all domains of knowledge. And specifically, I think how crypto economics relates to biology is one of the most fascinating and underappreciated. A comprehensive understanding of crypto economic systems like Bitcoin and Ethereum must leverage a biological perspective while also integrating concepts of complexity and adaptive systems. These are important topics as well. You should absolutely go check out these Wikipedia pages, which I've linked here. It's not just like the definition of complex. There's complexity theory. When we discuss Ethereum and Ethereum-related applications or concepts, we are often zoomed in too close to view the system in a holistic manner. When you zoom out and view Ethereum as one coherent system, biology becomes the best lens to view it from. For example, a metric that we often use to illustrate the health of these systems is node count, or how many instances each system has been able to replicate itself upon the world. Good crypto economic systems are easy replicatable, and downloading the chain is something that can be easy, like with Bitcoin, or hard with Ripple or EOS. Systems with good replicatability are anti-fragile and find it easier to survive. This is how Bitcoin and Ethereum become viral. No feasible amount of coordinated labor can eliminate nodes faster than nodes can be created. Bitcoin and Ethereum want to live. They have their own native motivations, as well as unique strategies for achieving their goals. Like all of life, they are goal-oriented systems with a will to live long and prosper. Ethereum applications that discover product market fit are instances of Ethereum growing new structures to help it achieve its goals. When a new protocol is developed on Ethereum, it's like Ethereum sprouting a new appendage, which is a new tool it can leverage to survive and thrive. Humans developed bipedal locomotion, opposable thumbs, a prefrontal cortex, and we use these structures to achieve our goals and aspirations. Similarly, Ethereum develops money Legos, and these structures are stitched and combined to produce functioning, input sensing structures that enable competitive edges over its competition. I wrote Ethereum is an emergent structure with this framing in mind. This piece is summarized as, the money Legos of DeFi applications are the building blocks for a single collective DeFi structure. This single DeFi structure, made up of many independent components, is what we call Ethereum. Applications on Ethereum create new surfaces for other applications to build upon. MakerDAO, Uniswap, Compound all represent Ethereum applications that consume chaos and produce order, creating new arenas of stability leverageable by other applications. The linear growth of order-producing applications creates exponential growth of stable surface area able to be built upon. The permutations of possible combinations of apps quickly approaches infinity, and complex adaptation begins to take over. Also see chaotic organization. Definitely check these things out. These are really important concepts. we kind of get into it here. This is an illustration of Ethereum over time as it relates to transactions between applications, right? So this first illustration was in May of 2019 with MakerDAO, Compound, Augur, and Uniswap, and then the lines between them are transactions, right? And so there's 4 different applications, and then there's a bunch of permutations that are the different transactions between them two. And in August of 2019, we get even more applications and even more possible permutations. And then in March of 2020, we get so many more applications, and the number of possible permutations of transaction types between each application grows exponentially. And that's what we have illustrated here, right? So if each blue dot is a money Lego, the lines between the blue dots represent possible combinations that you can create when you transact between or using multiple money Legos, right? And the more money Legos are, the exponentially more possible types of transactions there are. So read that article, and here's a illustration that goes with it. Ethereum is a trust-producing plant. Many plants of the world have incentivized humans to do their bidding. The agricultural revolution was the era when energy-capturing plants convinced humans to put down their bows and spears and instead be aligned and incentivized in the plant's survival due to the beneficial product that the plants produced: food. Plants produce what humans want, and humans dropped everything in order to cultivate these organisms, as the life and prosperity of the crop meant life and prosperity for the farmers. Wheat, coffee, tobacco, corn, any crop at all is an organism that produces something that makes the plant itself extremely valuable to us. Because the plant is so valuable, humans toil to ensure perfect conditions for the plant's ability to thrive. We make sure it gets enough water, but not too much, enough sunlight, but not too much, and enough nutrients, but not too much. We innovate pesticides that harm insects, but not the leaves. We buy more plants and put more plants on it. Then we find ways to put more plants on less land, and then we buy more land and repeat. From an evolutionary success standpoint, plants that give humans what they want are some of the world's most successful organisms. These plants have outsourced replication and proliferation duties to humans. Plants don't have a brain, yet they have convinced generations of humans to use their brain power to study and research how to best grow and proliferate these organisms. They get to spread and replicate their DNA without having to do any work because humans do it for them instead. Plants that produce value for humans incentivize human labor to propagate and proliferate the species. Nice move, plants. Wheat produces carbohydrates, coffee produces caffeine, sugarcane produces sugar, and tobacco produces nicotine. Ethereum produces trust. The nature of crypto economic systems is to produce trustless coordination infrastructure. The aim is to act as a substrate for the establishment of trust between 2 or more parties. Trust is the highly desirable compound produced by the Ethereum plant. Like food and cash crops that convince entire populations to be focused on their survival, Ethereum is slowly recruiting all of humanity to help grow and protect it, because the product of the Ethereum plant is so incredibly valuable: trust. Like how the agricultural revolution created an explosion in population growth and human specialization, the trust revolution will similarly bring unimaginable improvements into the health and proliferation of the human species. The trust revolution begins with cultivating Ethereum's tree of trust. My Christmas cactus. One of my favorite plants is my Christmas cactus, named after the time of year in which it flowers. How it grows is really cool and very illustrative of the concept of chaotic organization and complex adaptive systems. Definitely read these things. New Christmas cactus leaves extend out of older ones and form a chain that extends all the way back to the base of the plant. Sometimes 2 or 3 leaves shoot out of a single leaf and go in their own direction, forking into a new chain of leaves. The new leaves that emerge are initially delicate and floppy, and if you're careless, you might break one off. If you do, you'll have to wait for a new leaf to re-emerge in its place. If a Christmas cactus goes through hardship, not enough water, not enough sunlight, brutal weather conditions, it will begin to drop off all of its newly formed excess leaves. All plants do this in some manner. If there are trying conditions, the organism needs to become more efficient. It does this by reducing its costs and expenditures. New leaves, being the furthest from the base of the plant, require the most energy to ferry nutrients to, and thus are the first to go when times get hard. This is no different from a company that trims back during recessions or populations that contract during a famine. This pattern is part of the universe that we live in and is exactly what you want to see in an anti-fragile, enduring organism. In order to live long and prosper, it's important to be able to respond to the conditions of the environment around you. When the going gets tough, you keep your resources close and you don't risk costly new ventures. If there are sufficient conditions for growth, however, new leaves are able to create more energy than the plant than they cost to maintain, and thus earn their way into becoming a more permanent part of the structure of the plant. The leaves that manage to stick around for a long time on a Christmas cactus start to become woody. Woody is a real, albeit non-technical term that describes the structural tissue of a plant that is composed of highly durable cellulose and lignin. Cellulose provides the carbon lattice structure that makes wood incredibly strong, and lignin is like the internal circulation system for the plant. Cellulose provides the structure, lignin provides the nutrient circulation, blood and bones. Becoming woody is a slow, iterative process of adding on layers and layers of cellulose as its structural tissue, and over time hardens into a stem. The woody parts of plants do well during winter conditions due to their resilience to hostile weather and temperature. In human biology, we use the term calcification, which describes the layering of calcium and phosphate into a matrix that become bone. We also use the term calcification in the crypto world to describe the hardening of these systems and the ability to make changes to them. Bitcoin is considered calcified because of its resistance to protocol changes. The opposite of woody plants are herbaceous plants, which exhibit no woodiness and thus have ephemeral above-ground growth. When the winter comes, the above-ground growth dies off and the root system goes dormant until conditions become more favorable. The strategy of letting your surface growth die off each year just to grow it back later is an interesting one. It means that the plant doesn't depend on its above-ground growth for survival and therefore can endure extremely hostile conditions. However, not being able to produce long-term above-ground growth is overall constraining for the potential of the plant. Woody growth is a system that allows a plant to lock in the growth that it makes each growing season. Without this ability, a plant starts anew each year. Every growing season, many fresh new leaves are added to the plant. Due to the ample nutrients and favorable conditions found in growing seasons, plants are able to bear the risk of costly new growth due to the possible upside of new year-round sustainable energy capture. Meanwhile, in order to support and sustain any successful new ventures, all the old leaves on the Christmas cactus become woody. The internal structure of older leaves begins to harden. They morph from being floppy, soft, and delicate into woody, firm, and durable. These older leaves form a solid stick-like structure on their inside, which helps generate a stable and dependable branch for new growth to build from. Next growing cycle, some fresh new baby leaves are sure to grow out of these veteran leaves. New leaves are able to capture new resources, and older leaves become better at circulating these new resources. This positive feedback loop is how life proliferates. Not all leaves make it to the point of being woody and stable, but once they do, the likelihood that the leaves become a permanent structure in the overall plant increases significantly. The more woody and firm the Christmas cactus becomes, the more dependable surface area it has to grow new leaves from its stable base. And so here we see an actual picture of my Christmas cactus, and you can see the younger leaves at the periphery. They're green, they're flat, they're wide, and they're definitely soft, and they're definitely delicate. And then you can go back further to the base. Here are leaves that are over a year old, and you can see a rod in the middle of it, right? It's firm, it's hard, and they're bigger, and they're also supporting more leaves. And if you go even further back, you actually see something that's mostly woody, right? And less leafly and mostly woody. And as time goes on, this process will extend itself out as it becomes a bigger and bigger plant. The trust plant. You're probably thinking, David, what the hell is all this plant talk for? This is exactly how Ethereum grows as an ecosystem. Early primitive foundations are constructed, and over time, new extensions emerge out of this foundation. If the extensions are good, they are retained by the system. If they are bad, they get washed out from neglect. The ERC20 standard was one of the first emergences out of the Ethereum Foundation, and this structure has become a crucial, unbreakable scaffolding for almost all of Ethereum. In 2017, a multitude of ICOs came to Ethereum. Thousands of new leaves were born out of a relatively young plant. These new leaves were enabled to grow because 2017 flushed Ethereum with resources. 2017 gave Ethereum a seemingly limitless supply of sunlight, water, and nutrients, and as a result, 1,000 new leaves of Ethereum emerged out of the protocol. In 2018, the sun, water, and nutrients all dried up, and 95% of the leaves that were born in the 2017 growing season died and dropped off the plant. Ethereum had not yet built a stable enough foundation to be able to host all of these new leaves, and many of the new leaves were deformed and weren't adding sufficient value back to the base plant. In these conditions, anti-fragile organisms like Ethereum do what they do best. They trim the fat and they harden up for the winter. 2018 and 2019 was a long winter for Ethereum. Few resources came into the ecosystem, causing Ethereum to continue to cut back closer and closer to the core of the plant. Like a body experiencing hypothermia, plants contract their resources closer to the core of the plant. An extended period of insufficient resources meant that the Ethereum organism would continue to have to consolidate and become more efficient. No one is immune from the depths of a bear market. Even high-quality projects like Nexus Mutual came close to dropping off due to the lack of funding. Even the most resilient of plants will still die without the required resources, and the organism will continually cut back until new resources come or until it completely dies. DeFi summer brought a new wave of energy into the Ethereum system, and with that new energy came a new wave of growth out of the Ethereum plant. Capital flowed into the economy and new projects were established. Most importantly, the projects that had made it through the 2018-2019 bear market had become the scaffolding to support all of this new growth. After learning to survive under famine conditions, the parts of Ethereum that had made it through the winter had become extremely lean, consolidated, and efficient. They are capable of maximizing the value in new nutrients being poured into the ecosystem. Uniswap first emerged in 2018 and was one of the few leaves that were able to grow during the 2018-19 winter. If a new structure can grow during times of hardships and lack of new resources, imagine what it can do during a growing season. It's barely springtime in Ethereum land, and Uniswap is already doing more volume than Coinbase. Uniswap as a structure is able to host new growth extending out of the protocol. It is one of Ethereum's most efficient leaves because it creates massive surface area for further growth to emerge out of. Uniswap quickly turned into a woody, stable component of Ethereum's internal circulatory system, and many new leaves have been able to depend on it for structure. Uniswap was built on the dependable, stable structure of the ERC20 token. As a result, it produced its own dependable, stable structure, which is now hosting a diverse variety of new growth in the Ethereum ecosystem. Structural modularity. Pervading the DeFi ecosystem, one sees a diverse landscape of applications, all with varying degrees of attack vectors and protocol hardness and security. Uniswap, MakerDAO, Compound, Aave, Synthetics, Curve, Balancer, YEARN all resemble varying degrees of dependable surface area for others to build from. Notably, many are concerned about how much growth has been off of MakerDAO. DAI is becoming increasingly backed by centralized assets, leaving the MakerDAO leaf perhaps more fragile than what's ideal. If the MakerDAO leaf on the Ethereum plant died, it would kill all the other leaves built on it as well. If the foundation crumbles, everything above it dies. This would be bad for the plant. However, as even the most novice horticulturalist knows, losses to a plant can always be built over time. We already see this with Aave and Compound, two redundant copies of similar scaffolding. While MakerDAO continues to dominate the decentralized stablecoin landscape, a new cohort of startup leaves are establishing themselves to help support the plant. Rye, Empty Set Dollar, and Dynamic Set Dollar. These are all three products being built right now, relatively young, but are offering different vehicles to access stability in Ethereum. So let's remember this figure, right? A bunch of blue dots connecting lines between them. But instead of each blue dot being a money Lego, let's imagine that each blue dot is a very similar money Lego, like something like a trustless stablecoin like DAI, right? And so if you just have one version of a trustless stablecoin, we only have DAI, that's relatively fragile because if we lose that, that's the only one. But let's say Rye, Empty Set Dollar, and Dynamic Set Dollar all work out. Well, then we'll have four. And then we have some level of redundancy. And we have the growing emergence of like a mesh network of trustless stablecoins, where if one fails, the rest can pick up the slack. And let's go from 4 to 8, right? And like if we just have 4, we have six permutations of possibilities. But if we have 8 copies, we have 8 versions of a trustless stablecoin, we have 28 permutations of possibilities with how to create a structure around stability, right? We have more options. If one fails, the rest can pick up the slack. Anti-fragile redundancy is at the core of all life, and the establishment of a diverse ecosystem of overlapping DeFi applications produces a healthy network of both interdependent and independent products. Ethereum is in the process of growing a holistic mesh network of woody, stable growth out of the base of the plant. The more dense the mesh network is, and the more woody and stable it becomes, the more ready DeFi is to support the world's economy. Ethereum roots, DeFi leaves. The Chinese bamboo tree is capable of some of the fastest growth in the world, almost up to 80 feet of growth in just 6 weeks. How is this possible? The answer is because the 6 weeks of growth is simply the expressive period of the plant, but it is actually only one small component of the overall growth process of the Chinese bamboo tree. It actually takes the bamboo tree 5 years of underground root development in order to be able to create all of the impressive above ground growth. 5 years of dormancy as the plant grinds away at developing its nutrient collection and circulation system. Then, when the conditions are just right, the plant makes up for its 5 years of dormancy by growing in just 6 weeks, 80 feet tall. It wasn't called crypto winter for nothing. Starting in 2018 and ending in early 2020, the winter period for crypto was long. It was 30 months of consolidation as crypto economic systems pruned themselves to be able to maintain life. Miners dropped off, funds went bankrupt, projects shut down. But one thing never stopped happening: the progress and development of ETH2 and structural improvements to ETH 1.x. During the crypto winter, Ethereum's roots seemed unfazed by harsh above-ground conditions and have grown into an extensive network of parallel growth and development. To check that out, see the roadmap that Vitalik put out not too long ago. I have it linked in the article. With Phase 0 live and underway, EIP 1559 on the horizon, and the roll-up ecosystem consolidating into its final form, the foundational roots of the Ethereum economy seem as anti-fragile and dependable as we could have ever hoped. Meanwhile, the above-ground conditions have quickly begun to thaw, and new interest in Ethereum is funneling new resources into the ecosystem at a never-before-seen rate. Ethereum is entering its growing phase, and from what we are able to see, conditions look extremely favorable. The rate of growth of new leaves out of the Ethereum plant is going to be incredible to watch. The woodiness of Ethereum is its values. Ethereum has been designed around a particular set of values, and importantly has taken zero shortcuts with learning how to express these values to their maximal degree. The values of Ethereum are synonymous with the protocol sync thesis: permissionlessness and openness, censorship resistance, credible neutrality, and decentralization. These qualities are the qualities that differentiate a private product from a public good. And the whole entire reason this industry exists is to produce globally accessible public goods in money and finance. Make sure you understand the protocol sync thesis. The formula for how this industry will develop is as such: censorship resistance plus openness plus neutrality plus decentralization plus an app plus one more feature creates an extremely valuable global public good. To make this easier, we'll consolidate this equation into trustlessness plus an app, right? Trustlessness plus a feature. So here's what we have so far. When you add trustlessness and a hard cap together, you get internet gold, or Bitcoin. If you add trustlessness and smart contracts, you get internet native finance, that's Ethereum. You get trustlessness and minimum viable issuance, that's programmable money in ETH. Trustlessness plus asset exchange, that's AMMs like Uniswap and Balancer, that's trustless markets. Trustlessness plus borrowing and lending, that's money markets like Aave and Compound. Trustlessness plus an external price anchor is stability like DAI. Trustlessness plus scale, that's instant transaction assurances like rollups. If you've built a trustless app, you have built something that is dense in the protocol sync, and it's something that resonates with the values of Ethereum. When an application on top of Ethereum and Ethereum itself is aligned in their design, synergies emerge. When an Ethereum application finds itself at the bottom of the protocol sink, proximate to the Ethereum protocol, this application will naturally receive favorable treatment from the rest of the Ethereum ecosystem. A trustless application finds itself at the very core of the Ethereum plant and finds itself having privileged access to the resources produced by the plant. It's simply easier to nurture a part of the Ethereum plant if it's closer to the core of the organism. When an application is trustless, asking for resources from Ethereum is an easy sell. The users of Ethereum look at the application and ask themselves, will I get my money back in the way that I expect? Applications with trustlessness always answer yes. Trustless applications tend to receive ample money and capital deposited into their contracts, and woody growth emerges out of trustless applications. Ethereum extends itself outwards from its base into its app layer via trustless applications. Uniswap is an app in Ethereum's application layer, but it is a high-fidelity representation of Ethereum itself. This alignment between Uniswap and Ethereum is why Uniswap was able to thrive during a winter period and illustrates how Uniswap was so quickly able to become a stable, woody outgrowth from the Ethereum plant so early in its life. Uniswap is an above-ground protrusion from the core of Ethereum. Ethereum wants to express itself via the app layer, and the applications that do not cut corners on trustlessness are the medium through which Ethereum manifests in the real world. After all, the ETH2 developers that spent years trying to perfect Ethereum 2.0's ability to express trustlessness without constraints. The motivation on why this was so important is because applications can only express as much trustlessness as base layer Ethereum is capable of allowing for. In previous articles, I've illustrated a feedback loop between the presence of dependable, trustless structures like Uniswap and other applications on Ethereum. DeFi is one single superstructure of financial applications. DeFi apps are money Legos, and there is an inextricable gravitational pull for all applications to coalesce together. What's the point of having separate Legos? Coders on Ethereum seem to be primarily interested in either 1, producing new apps, or 2, stitching other applications together. But really, that's actually just a subset of 1. Therefore, all of DeFi is marching towards one single application superstructure. I call this superstructure Ethereum. When an application like Uniswap is added into the structure, it imbues the rest of the structure with their trustlessness. When applications like Uniswap exist, it helps other applications grow in their trustlessness because they can simply plug into Uniswap if they need an exchange feature. As more applications on Ethereum grow in trustlessness, building further trustless applications becomes easier and easier as there are more trustless tools available to the builder. Extending this to the plant metaphor, trustlessness is the woodiness of the plant. As the Ethereum superstructure grows in trustlessness, the Ethereum plant has stronger, longer, and more efficient woody growth that is capable of hosting so many more leaves. When the sun finally breaks through the clouds, Ethereum has built the circulatory structure it needs to produce and maintain the leaves needed to capture that energy. Full spectrum of values. Ethereum's best feature is that it can host financial activity of any kind. The protocol itself is designed to be maximally expressive, so the full taxonomy of possible activities are able to be achieved on Ethereum. There are people who wish to build things on Ethereum that do not maximize trustlessness. Tokenized securities, real-world assets, permissioned walled gardens. Trusted or not, these can all be useful products. While we believe things like this do not fall down the protocol sink thesis, there is no rule that you need to build something on Ethereum that does. The protocol sink thesis simply suggests that the things that do build trustlessness will be organically favored by the ecosystem and tend to gravitate towards the bottom of the sink. With that in mind, the thesis doesn't prohibit the possibility of great value being found outside the sink either. An adaptive plant like the Christmas cactus gets to have it both ways too. Closer to the base, it has woody, dependable structure, but further out, it has green, sunlight-capturing leaves. A healthy plant needs both. The woody base for structure and nutrients, and the leafy branches for value surface area. Centralized projects on Ethereum are easier to build than trustless projects, and from the perspective of a plant, all growth is good growth. Only a few projects are Only a few trustless projects are needed to be able to support many centralized products, and overall, I expect centralized products to offer the greatest total surface area for the Ethereum plant. Some Ethereum applications are doing fantastic work, capturing a ton of value for the ecosystem as a whole, while existing in the permission centralized realm. USDC from Circle, Gods Unchained from Immutable, Rarible, DYDX, MONOLITH Visa Card. All of these are Ethereum applications bringing in economic activity from centralized products and services. They are capturing value for the ecosystem as a whole, and users have the freedom to exit from these applications back into the trustless parts of the Ethereum ecosystem. Over time, centralized entities have the ability to harden themselves up, as it is a good strategy to plug up attack vectors with trustless applications, or as they become available, further establishing trust and density in the protocol sink while still maintaining some degree of centralization. The plant grows in all directions. Cultivating trust. In a world where trust in institutions is at an all-time low, Ethereum is a newly discovered life form that produces trust as a product. Another piece from Brandon Quittem that I think holds a lot of weight is his Bitcoin and the Fourth Turning article, which explains the thesis behind the book, The Fourth Turning, from the perspective of Bitcoin and its role to play in generational cycles. The Fourth Turning in a paragraph. The Strauss-Howe generational theory, also known as the fourth turning theory, describes reoccurring generation cycles. Historical events are often associated with a reoccurring generational personas, and each generational persona unleashes a new era in which a new social, political, and economic climate exists. They are part of a larger cyclical saeculum, a long human life usually spanning between 80 and 100 years. After every saeculum, a crisis reoccurs in American history, which is followed by a recovery. During this recovery, institutions and community values are strong. Ultimately, succeeding generational archetypes attack and weaken institutions in the name of autonomy and individualism, which ultimately creates a tumultuous political environment that ripens the conditions for another crisis. In a chart, the fourth turning theory is represented by two out-of-sync sine waves, one representing the supply of order and another representing the demand for order. According to the fourth turning thesis, we are currently in a time in which there is low supply of order with growing demand for order, right? So here at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the four turnings of a saeculum. So from 1 to 4 is one saeculum. And according to the theory, we are at the end of the fourth saeculum, which means we're turning back into the first. And this is a time where there is low supply of order. And that's what me and Ryan on the Bankless program have been calling distrust in institutions and a growing demand for order, as in we want trust. We want to be able to have institutions that regulate us, but we just don't like the current ones that we have. Like me, you may be pessimistic for American democracy to be able to vote our way into a better world. The trajectory doesn't really seem to back that up. I'm personally more optimistic about the demand for order being met by constructing alternative institutions that are independent of the health and capabilities of current human governance systems. But what other institutions are out there that can help us provide and find order and stability in the world? The Silicon Valley gargantuans? That seems pretty dystopian. How will the market come to serve the demand for order in our lives? Ethereum is a crypto economic system that produces trust as its yield. The more Ethereum is cultivated and nourished, the more trust it is capable of producing for the world. Ethereum is just 6 years old and potentially about to emerge from its ETH 2.0 chrysalis as a mature plant capable of extending trust across all corners of the internet. Like all crops that produce yield for their farmers, Ethereum will recruit the people of the world to do its bidding. They will help it grow, provide it with nutrients, give it sunlight, and they will do this because the healthier Ethereum is, the more trust it yields. And trust is something that is in low supply and in high demand. Ethereum has what we want, trust, and it's going to leverage humans and our need for trust to help it grow into the single largest life form that we have ever known. All right, guys, thanks for bearing with me on that one. If you have any thoughts, put it in the comments or at Bankless HQ on Twitter. I'd love to talk about what you guys think about this. So let me know. And thanks for listening. If you want to live a bankless life, you need to get a hardware wallet. There is no alternative for storing your crypto in a self-sovereign fashion. That's why I have 4 ledgers that I use to manage my different crypto assets using the Ledger Live account as well. Ledger Live is like your home base for managing your Ethereum, DeFi, and crypto accounts. It does a really good job of aggregating all of your different Ethereum wallets if you are the type of person that uses more than one. But you can also add other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Cosmos or whatever your preferred blockchain is. And then it will display an aggregate portfolio of all your accounts at the main page. One thing that Ledger is doing a really good job of is enabling all the money verbs that me and Ryan talk about with the Bankless Skill Cube enabled in the Ledger Live app. So right now in the Ledger Live app, you can buy, sell, lend, swap, and stake your crypto assets, which is doing a really good job of fulfilling all of the money verbs in the Bankless Skill Cube. Something that's new to Ledger Live is Ledger Swap, where you can swap assets one for another directly inside the Ledger Live application, ensuring trustlessness in your financial activity on Ethereum and on Bitcoin. If you want to learn more about what you can do with a ledger, go to the blog post, The Power of Ledger Live on the Ledger website, where they share some of the more advanced things that you can do with your ledger that you might not have known about. There's a link in the show notes that will take you to the Ledger shop where you can get your preferred Ledger hardware wallets. I personally like the Ledger Nano X, but I also have both. They're both great options. When you own a ledger, you own your own assets in the way that they have been designed to be held by the user and the user alone. So go get your ledger today to make sure that you are as self-sovereign as possible. The Bankless State of the Nations are brought to you by YEARN. YEARN is DeFi's first self-building community-run project, which I just get really excited about. YEARN is a system that seeks out yield in DeFi, and it does that in a number of different ways. A very aggressive way is with the vaults, where you can deposit your preferred asset of choice, and different DeFi experts will come in and generate a strategy for what to do with your deposited token, right? And so it'll go find ways to get yield in that deposited token in DeFi. For those who want to just earn yield on their stablecoins, the Earn system is for you, where you can deposit your preferred stablecoin and YEARN will go and figure out which money market on DeFi in DeFi is producing the best interest rate, whether it's DYDX, it's Compound, or Aave. It looks around DeFi to see where the yield is coming from, and it directs stablecoins automatically so you don't have to. Check them out at yearn.finance to get started, and also check out the stats page to see what other people are doing as well.